Ghostly greetings, everybody. Ghostly greetings. Hollering at your boy, Prue. How you doing today? Good morning. Happy Sunday. No results yet for my coronavirus test, but I'm feeling pretty good. Allergies are messing with me, so anxious about that. You know, you hear something, you think you got it. It'll be fine. But I did get tested. They shoved a thing up my nose. Let's hope for the best. But we're going to talk about Hellworld by Tom Laverne, the first book I finished in my quarantine read. Stuck upstairs reading, quarantined myself from everybody. So I thought I'd pick up a few books and knock down my TBR. But Hellworld by Tom Laverne starts off with an amazing premise. A girl named Abby, her mom does like a ghost hunter show. Now, please don't be like, oh, Pruitt plugging ghost hunters. No, that's the one I know. That's the ghost hunting show that I've watched. So that's the one I just compare everything to. It's like when I hear someone play a video game, like, oh, you're playing Nintendo. You may be playing a PlayStation, but I still call it a Nintendo. Her mom goes missing in the third season. She just doesn't come home. They go to film an episode. No one from the crew comes back. One day, she finds a book that gives her some clues on what might have happened. So she calls up this guy named Charlie, whose dad worked on the show, and they decide they're going to go look for their parents. And they bring a friend and his girlfriend, whose last name was Lovecraft, which I thought was a cool plug because I love me some H.P. Lovecraft. I know what he was, and that's fine. I don't subject that with his writing, but that was a cool premise. Then it does a mechanic that I hate. It goes from a chapter, like chapter 1 is a then, and chapter 2 was a now. Oh, I hated that so much. So, like, I'm reading it, they're like, yeah, let's get together and let's go. And then the next chapter was now, and they're getting out of this cave, and there's a monster chasing them. And I'm like, what the fuck happened? And I reread chapter 1. I'm like, all right. Then I got to chapter 2, and they talk about going to meet this guy their parents knew. And I'm like, oh, that's cool. Because, you know, they're figuring out where their mom was. But then get to the chapter 4, and it's them getting out of the cave and her being, and one of the people being hurt. And I gave a little bit of a spoiler there. Sorry. One of the people being hurt and how there's monsters coming up from the ground now. And I'm like, oh my God. So the book goes chapter 1, them leaving town. Chapter 2, an event happening. I don't want to say the event, but that spoils it. But then chapter 3 is them. So at the final 2 chapters of the book, the final then chapter is them getting to the cave. And then the final now chapter is how they're dealing with the monsters that escaped from whatever that they did. And I hated that. I hated that. That was awful. So when I'm like, man, if that would have just been like, leave town, find info, get the cave, detective stuff, figure shit out, event, blah, 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 blah. That would have been perfect. I'd have given this book a 5 out of 5 stars. I'd have loved it. I'd have been singing this book's fucking praises. Like, where the fuck did you find this at? Fucking Dollar Tree? This should be in the fucking must-read bin. No, not because of that, here's this. Oh, we're going to leave the house. Chapter 2. Oh my God, the world's ending. Chapter 3. We get to Arizona. We stop at a gas station and we talk about our parents. Chapter 4. She's wounded. The beast is coming from beneath. Oh, awaken, Bahamut. Chapter 4. We stop for Slim Jims, get gas. We decipher the creepy old book. And I'm like, oh my God, I hate this. I almost restarted the book and just read the then chapters, like skip a chapter, till I got the end of the then chapters, and then read the now chapters. I almost did that just to make this book a bit more bearable. But other than that, I thought this book was amazing. All the characters were not cardboard there was a couple cardboard cutoutsy ones, but they all had their own personalities. They all had their own voice. They were described well. So when I was reading it, I got an instant, like, vision of what Abby and Charlie and Lovecraft looked like, and their dad and their mom. And he describes the monsters. He uses pop culture references combined with zoo animals. Like, oh, it's a rhino, but it's like a rhino that's been in the movie Alien. Oh, that's awesome. Yeah, I got right in my head, right there. I was just like, yep, I know it's instantly what you're talking about. Black demon rhino with the thing shooting out of his mouth. Yep, we got it. That sounds awesome. Why'd I hear about that in chapter 2? That should have been a chapter 7 monster. And I could have got there. I could have been like, oh, I like these characters. But when you jump to instantly the midway point, so you went from 1% to 50% to 5% to 55%. I'm like, oh, so when you get to the final part, you're at 50% and then you're at 100%. Now you're thinking, Josh, didn't one of your favorite books, Stephen King's It, do the exact same thing? Yes, it did. But that's a fucking masterpiece. I can't compare Stephen King's, the way he did it, to the way Tom Laverne. Not that Tom Laverne's bad. Just that setup ruined it. I didn't like it. I don't know. That alone brought it down to a 2 out of 5. But that's been my review, Helltown. If you can do it, it's good written, it's well depicted, and it's a fun flow story. I mean, it's just smooth sailing is what I call it. But when you're smooth sailing for 30 pages, then you hit a block, you got to jump to another part of the story. So in my head, I'm trying to play this like a movie, which is how I read, and it's everything's fine, everything's fucked. Everything's fine, everything is fucked. Pardon for my language there, but that's how it was, and I didn't enjoy that feature of it. This has been your boy Prue. Helltown, Tom Laverne. Read it. I don't know. If you've read this, let me know, because I read a lot of stuff on this. This is kind of a find for me. Currently, I am reading Dresden Files Book 5, and I feel like I'm going to start some Stephen King, because since I'm up here, that makes me feel better. Maybe I'll read it. I don't know. Stay creepy. Deuces.